Will these people ever see the inside of that building again?
Well, they were told that they can come back on Thursday to collect their items, but this is really impacting more than 1,300 employees, and really after efforts have already been underway for people to voluntarily leave, which we have seen at other agencies. And a lot of the people that I'm talking to at the Education Department feel as though some of the things that have happened at CFPB, the USAID, those things are starting to play out here as well, where President Trump is very explicitly saying he wants to eliminate this department, but he is doing it in a way that is much slower because, of course, there's a lot of things at stake here. They oversee more than $1 trillion in student debt, so they need to make sure they have experienced people staying in the department to continue to oversee some of those really critical functions.
Well, because it's congressionally mandated that the department does so. And you just heard Secretary McMahon making that point, Akayla, that if they really want to undo it entirely, they need Congress's cooperation. So how far realistically can the executive branch take that without lawmakers going along?
But really look at the examples that we've already seen from the CFPB, USAID. Both of those agencies were both also created by Congress. And yet I think because this agency is a lot bigger, a lot more people are more familiar with it, they're being more careful than they have been with some of these other agencies where we've seen signage removed from the buildings. We've seen other employees pretty much taking over those buildings. So you still have folks in that physical headquarters in Washington, D.C., but they're closing down offices pretty much across the country in places like California. So this is really a sweeping effort, and they're saying they're trying to consolidate all their staffers into one building right now.
Interesting. Well, the DOGE, of course, is a massive topic of conversation all over Washington and now on Wall Street. The president yesterday talked about the DOGE's strategy for cutting the federal workforce at large. Here's what he said.
It's one thing to cut, but we want to cut the wrong people, meaning we want to cut people that aren't doing the job. We want to keep the right people.
Absolutely.
And I said, I don't want to just say we're going to cut 50%. I want to cut the people that aren't doing the job, the people that aren't there, the people that are scamming the system. And he agrees with that 100%.
Do we have any evidence of that sort of fine-tooth comb approach when you talk about laying off half the staff that doesn't smack as being surgical?
Well, at least at the Department of Education, they say that certain parts of particularly this federal student aid office, which oversees that $1 trillion in student debt, that those parts of that office in particular have some of those parts have been remained intact. But we have reporting that hundreds of people have been laid off there. And so we're really still waiting to see how that could actually impact the disbursement of aid. And a lot of borrowers are frankly freaking out. They're like, what is going to happen to some of these programs that they have been relying on for years?
Well, and we should point out as well that when it comes to the whole federal government, they're facing a deadline of tomorrow, these agencies, to submit to the Office of Personnel Management plans to cull their workforces, essentially. Akayla, do we have any sense of what those numbers ultimately could look like?
Well, we're starting to see cabinet secretaries really getting out there and talking about their plans to reduce staff. And this is really a jockeying effort we're seeing by cabinet secretaries to really fulfill not only Elon Musk's efforts, but President Trump's efforts, who says he's very strongly supporting Elon Musk. We saw those Teslas at the White House yesterday. So this is very much a whole of government approach. And I think secretaries are frankly competing to show how much they can do.